Oh, hello. I do believe we're here. Somewhere. This is somebody's very first time to experience the Weird Things podcast. Hello, beautiful people. We've been doing this program for what? 17 years? 18 years now? You could drink in Europe.
Started as children, we did.
Yeah. But we've been exploring. At times we've been a cryptid podcast. We were a futurist podcast for a long time, but then danged if the future didn't become the present. And so we're still covering weird things, but the weird things are closer than you think. How about that? Was that a good intro?
Yeah, good enough for me.
Yeah, good. All right. That's all I care about. Excellent. All right. Well, then let me check real quick in the chat. There you go. Are we live? Question mark. Excellent. I was thinking about, well, we'll save some of that for after things. But if our levels sound good, I say we go ahead and begin. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. And let me just click on that. And then we're 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to the Weird Things podcast. I'm Mayne, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Hello, hello. And that's it.
Brian, that's it. It's two persons, the two-hander, as we like to say in
just
the
like it's
TV
always
film
been.
Industry. Man, no dead weight here. I watched a YouTube video about a ghost city in Malaysia.
Ooh.
And really big. And you think, cool, ghosts in a city, like a ghost town. Like, no, ghost towns and ghost cities are two different things. And you people probably familiar with, the China situation where China invested very, very heavily in real estate to the point that everybody there is like deeply upside down in it. And this DCP is doing everything they can to sort of manage the economy and keep it from like falling apart, because they have parts of it that are doing great, but then all parts of it that are literally terrible. And it wasn't just in China they built in Malaysia this called like Forest City. And the concept art looked really, really amazing, really beautiful. And they actually went and built it. But like the Chinese tourists and people to go move in never showed up. And so you can like rent like super, super, super cheap there, So what I'm saying is you'll see these videos from like these shills going like, rent's so cheap in China. It's so much cheaper in America. It's like, yeah, it's because like their housing market just literally fell apart, like 2008, in America, you could get some houses, really great deals. And it's not so much the sign of an efficient city, efficient economy as much as this. So Forest City, it's a ghost town. I watched a pretty cool YouTube video about it. You can see some stuff there of like just like shopping malls, beautiful. Like it looks like a thing out of the future. Like this is going to have some businesses, movie set location, but that ain't going to cover the $1 billion+ a year they take to maintain it. So,
So
Brian?
Is it a case where they're going to abandon it? Or I guess you watched the video. I assume that you got something for us here.
Yeah, there's just their occupancy is like at 1% or 2%, and slowly they're gonna, can they get occupancy to maintain it before the company that owns it, which is a conglomerate in China that owns it, runs out of money to support it. And sometimes what happens those projects when they kind of don't, you have to maintain them. They're being maintained right now. People go like, yeah, you see guys and workers like keeping things clear, but there's nobody there. There's like one restaurant open. Somebody goes, I went in there, there's a bunch of people. It turned out they're all staff. And they all swarmed around and tried to sell them a $200 a bottle of vodka. So, Brian?
Yes?
I have made you mayor of Forest City.
Oh, okay. So what's funny is as you were describing this situation, I immediately thought of, oh, good, you can invent Twitter. You can create YouTube. You can basically do all of the Web 2.0 stuff, because for all you youngins, gather round as us crusty old Gen Xers bestow upon you ancient wisdom. That's exactly what happened in both the infrastructure run-up in the dot-com bubble of the late 90s, also the run-up to Y2K. The spend was enormous, ridiculous. And yes, the quote-unquote bubble popped and internet was quote-unquote over. But guess what? With that infrastructure, suddenly you could come in very cheaply and do some ridiculous stuff and nobody could tell you no. So in this case, the first thing I'm going to do, you know what, Mr. Investor, look, I'm a first time mayor here, but I know that the fastest way to get energy going is to get in front of a parade. And I wonder whether or not modeling on something kind of like Burning Man might be an interesting idea. Get big names, outrageous spectacle folks, and get it on the map as a artistic hub. Because for every creator, so let's say, for example, somebody wants to make a movie, get some famous independent creators, YouTubers, cinematographers, and say, what would you do? Okay, but here's the problem. Most of the stuff I'm pitching is less relevant once AI is here. But I don't have to worry about that. The artists will figure that out. That's my big thing, is get people who want to take wild swings, figure out what can't be done anywhere else, and make sure you have a bet. Either that or a social experiment, turn each high-rise into a nation state and let them have their own, make them sub-mayors of burbclaves.
Remember, you're mayor, though. You're not the ruler of Malaysia. So that's the problem.
Yeah, okay. Well, within a, either that or charge a lot of money for people to play high-rise tycoon. Although, as it's also known, being an actual high-rise tycoon.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. They thought that it would be this big vacation, people from China would, come to go vacate,
What was it that caused it to flop? Just is it the inconvenient location, or they just overestimated?
The Chinese economy is way worse than people realize, and the money they have for like the number of Chinese people that have disposable incomes to kind of go do vacations is not there. Like, they were pressured by the government to invest heavily in real estate, and a lot of people are just really, really upside down it and paying for real estate that they couldn't fulfill or make do on. Like, these were all like probably pre-sold. They tried to pre-sell these to Chinese citizens, and there's just no appetite for it, because that was one of the things is they were selling. The boom was based upon advanced selling all these properties. You see these ghost cities in China. What they were it was like Florida would happen. The 2008 housing crisis was, a lot of it was second homes, was speculation. We have our home here.
By the way, that was when we pretty much lived in the Orlando area. The 2 years, 2007, 2008, I headlined at Universal Halloween Horror Nights. We just got an Airbnb, and I believe we were the only occupied house in the development. It was unreal. An entire development of these fine, I don't know, $350,000 houses, all of them empty. It was unreal.
Yeah, that was the problem with a lot of vacation stuff, whatever. I told somebody like, yeah, we had a timeshare. We have a timeshare in Florida, and they started hysterically giggling like, my parents have one and they're trying to unload it. I'm like, no, ours is at Disney World. Ours is actually cool and in demand. None of this off-property BS. Literally walk into the Magic Kingdom. But yeah, it is amazing. I living in the Bay Area and looking at housing prices in Florida, and it's like, oh,
is it they went crazy since then?
They're low. I mean, it's just like, LA, here in Bay Area, our housing prices are like insane.
Yeah.
What you're, we're compared to, like, you look at a $200,000, a $300,000 house here and like looking in a place like in Florida would be like a 2 or 3 million. It's like just completely different.
Yeah.
But okay. And that's a big challenge, is you have these ghost cities and places. You have declining populations. You have this, some people, like, I've heard somebody like, Japan's a great model. I'm like, Japan's a terrible model. Like, there's less and less people look after the elderly people every year. Like at what point do you want, I'd say grandma, but grandma don't got no kids. What do you want older people to, like, have nobody they can call? So it's a tricky situation. And
Yeah, I
I
don't.
think that
But we don't see the developer pulling out, do we? I mean, surely they'll weather
well,
the
there's laws
storm.
about that. Like literally, the developer, if you look at like the developer has properties around the world, so they have to keep subsidizing this.
Mm,
Um, so if you look up, it's $100 billion project.
that's a lot. That's like
Yes.
you could build like 10 of the Sphere. we were talking about the Sphere project, which we the numbers weren't as bad as we thought, but Justin and I were talking about it. It was originally proposed at 1.3 billion and then cost another $1 billion, so it was like $2 billion.
Yeah. They had and Malaysia's got some really screwed up rules, like they don't let like citizens of Israel go there and whatnot. Like just a
Wow.
terrible, terrible situation.
Yeah. So that's interesting. The fact that Malaysia and China, so it was for the Chinese economy that they were building it out and they were hoping to.
Yeah, Chinese investors built it in Malaysia as a vacation place for Chinese.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you got a country that's got a large Muslim population, so you're going to be curtailed on some of the fun stuff you can do there too. So, you know, you can continue, you know, one of the other, you know, major forms of economic value for Malaysia is these call centers and pig butchering schemes. When you get those calls from numbers telling you, you know, and it's like, so you just turn it into a massive fraud call center.
Yeah, but unfortunately / fortunately, the robots are taking that job.
Probably the first ones, but the you know, we'll see, because like remember their cost on that is pretty low.
Yeah.
Because they basically kidnap people, English speakers from China and other places, and take them to Malaysia and put them in the rooms.
No, that's but that's the part that I'm so interested in is right now we're catching up to the sheer volume of scam calls and what have you, but I'm already wearing my Weird Things futurist hat, wondering like what happens when they become better than humans at being patient and being interested and knowing the right time to nudge people. Like that's one of my scary scenarios is quite literally, if I had a budget and I was a forward-thinking criminal, then I would be spending all the bootleg compute I could on just making friends with males age 60 to 65 so that 5 years from now, you know, as voices comes in, great. Now you got a voice model talking to them. As video models come in, great. You have video chats all the time. And then years from now, so that it's blurry to remember where the friendship started, then, you know, you could introduce your, oh, my daughter's here. And then, yeah, you make whatever, it goes into a romance scheme. But the important part is you introduce enough characters, and then when you feel like harvesting the money, you invent a tragedy, and it's like, hey man, I really need 40,000. Are you good for it? Yeah, of course. Like if you called asking for a crap ton of money, I don't know that I would bother to question whether or not you are a human being.
Andrew.
But that is going to be a weird step.
Yeah, I think, you know, the question is if, you know, I think there's so much opportunity right now in the short term. Like you can do that in a week, you know, like a day, and like a lot of it too is just mining and telling people, you know, oh yeah, it's Brian, it's Andrew under a new number, and things that we shouldn't think would work. And you know better than I do. Things we would think shouldn't work all the time.
Yeah.
And we had a neighbor who got that number, you know, got a call, you know, friend of our neighbors. The guy got the call from the number, like, oh, so and so, wrong number. Oh, who are you? And then like, oh yeah, I'm Tina. I live in Miami. I invest in South Beach. I'm a hot Asian lady, and sends him a photo. And he's like, oh, like okay, and then starts carrying on the conversation with her and. Like, well, I can get you in on the deal, but you can't tell. Oh, okay. Next thing you know, the guy spent like $30,000, tells his wife he's going to leave her and he's going to go move off to live with this woman. His friends were telling him all along, it's a scam.
Yeah.
It's a scam. Like it was like from the get-go, they're like, dude, you know, this is a scam. He's like, no. And then finally realizes, no, it's a scam. And you're like,
yeah, that's so I did a talk at PDXYZ, an HR conference, and my talk was all about how we haven't yet made the pivot to think of HR as critical security, but the exercise that I had everyone do is write down, think about people you work with every day, and then figure out in weeks, months, years, when's the last time you saw them in person? And now that didn't matter during the pandemic and all of the before times, but it matters now because for example, there's I got a follow-up message from somebody who I hadn't spoken to in a few years, a name I knew, around 4th of July. And it turns out it was just an old friend, rekindling our relationship. But there was a weird moment when it had aged out a good 5-7 years. I saw that the last text exchange was from the before times. And I'm like, I don't know what happened to this individual's phone in the intervening years. I don't know what got compromised where. So I had to do a little bit of weird talking around things before it became clear. He referenced enough early things that it was definitely him. But anyway, I told the HR people that they need to think of that in-person meeting that as that invisible password, that thing that both of you, that shared memory that is unambiguous, that nobody could know.
It's just hard though, because I get it from your friend, and then I tell you, and I'm leaving, you're still vulnerable because they're sloppy and they're sloppy. And all you need is one person to be sloppy in a chain of 8 people.
Oh, and that's the case if it's, a password. And that's the reason that I tell people don't do passwords. Instead, think of shared memories, because a shared memory you can approach from many different directions.
No, but I know, but I'm saying sorry, but I'm saying what I'm saying, like, if I've compromised Justin and he doesn't know, and I'm in a conversation like, yeah, Brian asked me to share my memory. It was this. What was the one you did with Brian? Like, oh yeah, that's then. Oh, cool.
Well, and that's just it. It wouldn't be a single memory. It would be a number of them. Like as a security expense, so we've been wondering, like, why are we spending money on all these, events, these holiday parties or whatever. Like during a holiday party, you make a whole bunch of memories. And in fact, that was the point I made on the HR thing. Was I did an improv exercise where Tom Nash, the guy I was doing it with, I challenged him to play PowerPoint roulette. He didn't know what the slides were going to be. And we picked a topic from the audience. And then during it, he had to explain, I forget what the topic was. It was a serious topic, but then he has to work in the fact that a woman is feeding a cherry tomato to a bunch of celery. And it was a funny moment, but all of those vivid memories, there's a whole bunch of them, so that now when we hop on a Zoom call, it's a shortcut. We'll both be able to reference that. And of course, you're right. Once those get burned, then what? And the answer is you have another event so that you're able to skip to knowing it's really the person.
Yeah, I mean, I want to. I'll take the counter on this and we'll figure it out. Okay, because like I look at, like, I'm in a situation where I get in these when I'm asking other people for their time. Like I run a couple Signal groups, and I'm told let this person in, and sometimes this person's high status. And if I do, I have to have the most minimal way I can sort of say, really all I can do is just sort of I need to get you on the record saying that you're the person that's doing this.
Right.
Because otherwise I create so much friction that people don't want to do it. And that's the hard part is you create this situation of like, we see this in security all the time because some people are super, super into it. But also, if we follow everything they do, we could never deploy or do anything. And then other situations where people
so what you're describing, that is exactly the problem. What you're describing is 100% the problem, because when you start with virtual presences from both parties, it is extremely difficult to verify everything, and you have to go to weird third parties, and the friction does get too high. Whereas being at an in-person event, like at DEF CON, just as soon as somebody was interesting, right there with them, I would turn, and with the phone in view, I would say, what's your phone number? And I would type, and then I would take a selfie of us. And I was like, hey, it's great. Like there's no doubt. And then later when I text them, it'll be in that same thread with all blue text,
that's good, starting
with our shared memory. And to your question, I don't know what the answer is without an in-person event. I know that in-person events smooth that all over.
Yeah, but I just, in my world, it's not realistic because so many people I'm doing business with or engaged with, we can't be in the same room. But it's a thing to think about. Like a lot of it I have to go for, like, does this person vouch for this person, et cetera. It's why it's a growing area. It's going to be the new $1 trillion economy is just literally, it's going to be a lot of different strategies to figure out how to do this.
Yeah.
So who knows? I saw something really cool. Invisible drones.
Invisible drones? Explain this one to me.
All right. So go type in YouTube, go look for like invisible drone.
All right.
And you'll see let me see, invisible drone. Yep.
There we go. Okay. What's the invisible part to it?
Have you found it?
No, but that was me filling
Just type in invisible drone. Yeah, that one. Click on it.
Whoa.
So what it does is it spins so fast. It's got these rotors on the other sides. It spins so fast it basically blurs itself.
That's clever.
And so it's a tiny drone. Things about fits in your palm. It's make some wires and stuff. And it's the idea is that imagine the part that has the rotor. Those two rotor things are also spinning so fast too that you're just not going to see. I mean, you're in it. They're showing it in broad daylight in the middle of a lit room.
Oh yeah.
And even then, it still looks hard to see.
Well, and especially at night, I still don't know. I remember it was just over 10 years ago, the first time we were walking, back when Trudy's was still open, we were walking on that same road, and then we just saw the red and green lights of a drone zip overhead and never knew what it was. And I'm seeing less of that now, or maybe they're just quiet. Like, did drone delivery work out? Are there a lot of places you can get drones to deliver stuff?
I think they're just starting that out. What happened too was that they started cracking down on a lot of drones because they had enough collisions and stuff with the airplanes that they started showing up at people's houses more often.
Yeah.
But you think about you think about when these things get more capable and steerable, and a swarm, it's like a force field.
Well, that is something that I'll peek in on time to time. Just the unbelievably coordinated hive activity of a gigantic drone show. Have you watched a drone show live?
Yeah. Trying to realize. I saw some
I've
like
not.
the 4th of July.
I have not seen one live, but the visuals are just extraordinary. It's giant particle physics where they virtualize fireworks displays. It's bonkers.
They're doing now is where was I? Somewhere where Rockets are. We saw just the tail end of one. But they're doing a thing too, like they do this for LA and stuff for like big movie releases, like when the season 2 of Monarch came out, they did like a giant Godzilla in the sky doing this. They'll do it with Darth Vader. They'll do that. And the main thing is the cost of this is going to fall down to such a point that I could see cities and stuff doing nightly, drone displays or things like this because, like we're looking at a giant purple tiger over a city and it's like, why not just do that at night? Why not just have some kind of cool thing? We live in, in Bay Area here. Like, why not have something super cool over the Bay?
It's bonkers. It is a bonkers display. And it's funny because there's a magician who hired me for a couple days of ideation for consulting. And this is a big magician who had big budgets, who we both know. And I pitched essentially this kind of hive drone display thing before. At the time, I mean, certainly a lot of people had to have had the same idea, but I think it was essentially this idea, and to see it happen and be such a thing is freaking rad.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the thing is the cost of these continues to fall. I've seen some cool daylight ones too that use like LED curtains and stuff. I do think we're just going to it's going to become much like the big inflatable figures that people put out in front of car dealerships and stuff.
It'll be
I can
cliche,
see this
yeah.
become but kind of cool. It's an opportunity. The neat thing is that you can just do something different. And I do think it brings us closer to, you think about every science fiction movie has some floating hologram stuff. And it turned out, well, we've got to use our pixels are, the size of a dinner plate and it's a much bigger show, but it will look like that. And I do think that you'll start to make these things more robust and whatever and cheaper and disposable. That kind of cool.
It's astonishing, man. Dear listener, take a look at this. Go type in just drone show and see what you could see.
Yeah, if we went back in time when we first started doing this show, and I think we take these things for granted, the scale and the scope of these drone shows now, like we would be like, yeah, that feels like the future. But if you just showed this thing was going on the sky and we asked like, how is it being done? I don't know. I think I'd be like, I don't know, maybe lasers hitting vapor or something.
Yeah.
If you're like, no, drones.
Yeah, right? It's crazy. Specifically, we're looking at the Guinness Book of World Records world's largest drone show. Man, it is legendary.
Oh, yeah. And there's going to be, some go to Home Depot and buy the Halloween drone kit that you put in your front yard. And
wow, this
stuff.
looks like a scene straight out of Blade Runner. It is because keep in mind, there are so many bright lights and it's such a wide space. It's literally lighting up the city. The entire city is washed in the glow of this unbelievably gigantic display. When did this one happen? This is bigger than I ever thought. Yeah, 4 months ago. Wow. That is
That's why I'm
really
not worried
something.
about China taking over. They're just wasting all their money on drone shows.
Yeah, sure. That's they got no other ideas to do with that.
Yeah, none at all.
Yeah,
amazing,
bonkers.
So
how long? So right now we're still at the part where you would play with a single drone, but pretty soon I'd imagine that you could buy a box of a drone cloud. This is going to be just like with fireworks. You'd have your local guy putting on a show. You could vibe code a whole presentation for this. That's going to be within the next couple of years. Your local guy is going to impress the neighborhood with his own drone show. Christmas decorations going to get all droned out.
We can remember the thing is we're still noisy, so there's going to be limited. So we can buy a drone show.
How much? I'll lock in my guess. Man, just that's a lot of pixels. How much? It's got to be what? $20 a pixel. That's what I'm going to guess. That it's $20 a pixel.
Like there's one where you can. I'm trying to like on one hand, I saw like commercial drone light shows starting at 40K investment versus a 10 drone starter kit starts at about 13K.
10 drone
blocks. I mean, that's a small number. Like, yeah, you can actually buy drone blocks, like a light show kit.
That's crazy.
Robo show plotter. Yeah, just buy your kit to see how many you want to add.
Bonkers. Totally rad. So what else has gone weird?
Yeah. But I think we've talked about this before, that when you're looking at an AI economy and you look at where things are going, the direction it's going there, you have to see that it's hard for us to imagine how much bigger other things become. Outdoor entertainment, visual entertainment that you would be spending. If I said, hey, if you're, somebody mentioned they're doing this, I think what they say, Busch Gardens or whatever, they're doing the drone show there nightly. If I said, 20 years ago, hey, I want to spend some money on an outdoor show at night, you'd be like, well, you mean fireworks, like,
Ha.
or lasers? We can do fireworks or lasers.
Yeah.
You know, that was it. And now you're like, oh, we can do drone show. We can do this. We can do that. And we're going to be inventing more stuff.
It's so bonkers.
I want to pull up, I follow these kind of cool YouTube sites that have like some really cool science stuff. I was trying to find some interesting stuff. And I was trying to find, was going through my YouTube history to find one of these things. But one of the things was this cool video that was talking about, like, there's a paper that came out a couple of years ago that made the suggestion that black holes, and when you're trying to reconcile like quantum mechanics and relativity, you get a disconnect, because when you try to figure out how gravity works, et cetera, and then also if you look at like how a black hole, where does information go? Because like in quantum mechanics, like the information doesn't get destroyed. You can't destroy information in quantum mechanics. In relativity, you have a thing called a black hole, which in theory, nope, the information's gone. And that's where the idea of Hawking radiation came from. Partially was from that. And then the idea that what if like black holes are basically quantum tunneling to other objects in a strange way, that like that's where the information goes, but like to another universe.
Right.
Because there was this, there was if you follow the whole, what we've been doing with our ability now to listen to gravity waves, right? The whole experiment, the LIGO and all that, where we're basically, what we do is we have these detectors, we have a couple from around the world. And when you get two black holes that start to swirl around each other and then merge, it creates a big ripple in gravity. And these detectors try to listen for that, to try to detect, like, because they just, tiny, 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 tiny imperceptible sort of change in the gravity wave hits it. And if you figure it where it hits two detectors, they have an idea kind of generally where it is or whatever. And so there was an event where because they can see this sort of waveform of like, you think of like a penny going around a drain of clink, clink, clink. They look for this pattern. They can tell that's two black holes somewhere in our universe that are starting to orbit each other, or billion years ago, whatever, orbit each other, and now have collapsed and created this gravity wave. There was a case where
how much time? So this is an actual detector that we have. You said LIGO.
Yeah, LIGO. Yeah, they have a couple detectors around the world that use these big, long, like laser beams that wait for detect like the inference to see if something, if they get 2 points at the same point, they get the same interference.
That's crazy.
And they look for the pattern. It happens within like seconds. Like that's the crazy part, is you get this thing and you pick up, you see just location A get it, location B around the world detect it. Like we both detect at the same time.
Got it. Okay, so the penny going around the circle thing, I assume like you don't really hear this. You hear the sound of the penny going at first, but then there's a moment where it hits the threshold right at the end where it's unmistakably making like a noise, and then it just
stops. Two of them colliding. That's when the 2 points they collide.
Right.
Is where you get this this gravity event, which you can detect millions of light years away.
Right. So we're listening, and we hear essentially the penny equivalent of two black holes hitting the read, and then
we start to hear. We know the pattern of like, oh, this is when they're getting closer. Blink, and you let.
Yeah.
So there was an instance where they had a gravity wave, and we've been finding tons of these because the universe is big. Two black holes are colliding every day, and there was an event where they had part of the pattern and then missing the other part. Like it was the other part of it was missing, and it was like one chunk of it was gone. And somebody wrote the paper. Some researchers wrote a paper which they're like, hey, we have an idea. You may not like the idea, but it fits if certain things are true. What if that was coming through a wormhole from another universe?
Oh, what if we found the outdoor? Wow.
Yeah, and the idea too, because there is this idea, and the idea that black holes could be quantumly entangled events, that a black hole could be quantumly entangled to some other thing, a wormhole or something the other side of the universe, in another universe even, the idea that this thing happened and that's what it was. It was just more like, hey, we're not saying it's this, but if this is true and this is true, then it could be this, which I thought was such a cool idea. Like, did we just hear a wormhole for the first time?
That's crazy. I love those moments where the math checks out, and not all of them ends up being right, but like the moment that the math worked out for many worlds being true was I mean, not that we have any way to directly test, but it certainly seems like every possible thing that is ever happening is in a universe next door.
Yeah, it's and we start off with crazy ideas. You know, black holes, the idea of a black hole was this crazy notion of what if matter becomes so dense that it creates this event where nothing can escape from it, light or whatever, and it's just like there. And then all of a sudden we found like, yeah, that turns out that happens. And we find out they're really common. We find out there's a big one sit in the middle of our galaxy. And then we find out that there's other ones that are so much bigger. The thing too is the density that you need to make a black hole is sort of like inverse to like what are the size of it is. So if you want to have a black hole the size of our solar system, it doesn't actually have to be as super dense as you might think it would be. It could literally be, it'd feel like a cloud, but it's dense enough to basically bend everything inside of it. Because you look at like, there's a Sagittarius, there's ton 168, I think it's 1 ton 168, which are bigger, like several times the size of our solar system. And like there's these super, super massive black holes that just sort of defy our idea of what they should be.
Black hole the size of our whole solar system. So,
way bigger, yeah.
And by the way, that's something that I always had a hard time wrapping my mind around was if it kind of has infinite gravity, then how could it be a smaller version or a larger version? But I guess really when you think of it as kind of a cliff's edge of an extremely, specifically what I'm thinking of is the first time I read about the idea of micro black holes that evaporate, which sounds crazy. But I guess
all black holes eventually, that's what Hawking radiation is, the idea that eventually it gives up everything, it radiates away, but over an impossible amount of time, hundreds of trillions of years, you know, that like literally the black hole radiates off all of that.
Got it. So it's equivalent to if you picture an eddy. Well, I don't know. I guess basically things are spinning and you get what, the X-ray radiation shooting out the top and bottom sides.
Well, yeah, you get like there's an outer area where there's certain things like the Hawking radiation and that it radiates away. So ton 618, this one is how 18 billion light years from Earth. It is 40 billion times the mass of the sun.
Wow.
And there's also Phoenix A, which is even bigger. Like, if you look at, they have a graphic and they'll show you Phoenix A, ton 618, and then orbit of Neptune. And Phoenix A is like so much bigger. Like it's several astronomical units across. Like it's insane.
That's crazy. Speaking of crazy things in space, did you happen to see the sharpest image ever taken of the sun?
Yeah, man. That looks like a pretty turbulent thing.
Yeah, so this is there was one that put it in perspective, but basically this center chunk right here is 100 kilometers apart, and at 100 kilometers you could squint and you can wrap your mind around, like, I have seen a hurricane that size, or, you know, an image, actually, yes, a hurricane of that size. There's little eddies in there, and it's thought that in the turbulence is the reason that the surface of the sun is so much hotter than the inside. Like, basically, I assume that it boils down to, with all those folds and the turbulence, it's the equivalent of massive surface area, basically.
There was a illustration in a book, like I think I may have had it as a kid. It was about the future, and it was talking about colonizing the solar system. And my favorite one from there, like I'm a kid, I don't think I stopped to process it, was somebody was like, you know, what if sunspots were cool enough that you could just build a colony on it? and I was like, you know, 9 years old, whatever. I'm like, all right, that sounds cool. And then like adult me is like, Um, you know, just because this spot, even assuming that even assuming that a sunspot was, mere, tens of thousands of degrees, or even it's something habitable, like you're still, I don't know, 1,000 miles away from the effing sun. Like you're not. It's a terrible place. It was just a cool like illustration of like, this colony on the sun, like the idea that there's the rest of the sun here, and there's a spot where they just built a colony on a one, not
Yeah, bit of
tangent to the fact
a
that it's plasma and all.
you'd be heavy there. That was one of the things
You'd be
we talked
cooked.
about. Must have been 10, 12 years ago. Was there was some article proposing like, yes, of course we're going to terraform Mars first, but hear me out. What if we built floating cities on the high pressure atmosphere of Venus, where we could have 1G, and you just because gravity for the human body fairly important for the bones and staying alive and whatnot. But anyway, I love the idea that
Big gravity tells you.
What's that?
That's what big gravity tells you.
Big gravity. But I love the idea of like the most inhospitable planet that we could think of maybe would be an okay choice to move to.
I mean, it's Venus sucks for a lot of reasons.
The specific proposal was if
I read it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was like, we just figure out how to float in the clouds as you do. And I'm like, okay, why are we going there? Like, we want to get on the surface in Mars. We want to get in the surface and dig and build. And it's like, no, it's going to be this live in the clouds. Like, why are we going there then? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, well, we'll build probes to go down on the surface. Okay, then just build habitats on the surface. I was like, if we're, I'm all for exploration. Yes, I 100% like, I think if 20 years from now, NASA's like, we're going to build a floating observatory that sits on top of the clouds of Venus. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well,
But
and now we're at the
moon.
part in history where it used to be the answer was, oh, well, you can't trust a probe or remote or blah, blah, blah. You need a human there to do all of the tough load-bearing decisions and so on. And then nowadays it's like, yeah, or for ounces on the 100 pounds, you could just send machines that are going to do a fine job.
Yeah, I think they'll get there. I think we'll get there where the machines are pretty good. But there is a thing too of like, why do we go there? Why do we do it? And I'm look at how many people watched Artemis 2.
Yeah.
Nothing happened on there that a space probe hadn't done before. But I'm like, a big part of this all is like, let's see if we can go live in space.
Yeah. I'm real glad that went as well as it did. Boy, am I glad. Yeah. Boy, did I not care for how nervous I was.
Yeah. Yeah, I can name a handful of people who were really super glad it went really well. That was cool. It was exciting to see, we had this, that we get into this sort of pessimism from time to time of like, people don't care anymore. I'm like, yeah, we got tired of like, the 6 or 7, third or fourth moon mission, because literally we're at the moon. Like, yeah, cool. What's going on? We're going to play golf, like, okay. And you get that like, wow, people don't care. I'm like, if it's a new thing, we'll get excited about it. But when and I get like the really important science, I get it. I'm a fan for that. But a lot of it was just this idea of like, we can't be as excited about the second trip to the moon as we were about the first trip.
Well, and remember that the whole reason we went to the moon was kind of a hybrid thing. It's convenient that we got a little bit of science done along the way, but in an extraordinary maneuver, instead of having a human killing war, we decided to have a cool storytelling war with the USSR. And so, and in that regard, like ratings, it really was the ratings war. And the ratings, you can't keep mining that same dopamine with the same story.
Yeah, it's got to be continue to do that. And it's hard because, it's hard when you're trying to do things in the world of science too. And, I remember having a conversation with somebody once who was some people who are like, what if we made scientists famous like rock stars? I'm like, why do you hate science that much? You know, you let a person alone, give them resources, let them spend several years to come up with something cool. But then you're going to create a situation where we're not going to think they're cool unless we understand it. So then we're going to force them to have to do stuff that we think is cool. And then, you know, we kind of did that with Ted. And
yeah, well, and then what happened is
some bad stuff.
Yeah. Well, you create incentives where the skill set turns out the skill set to be a scientist, not necessarily the skill set to be a rock star, and just wishing for the one to be the other. You know what happens is a lot of rock stars put on lab coats and announce that they're scientists now.
That's you know, kind of what happens. I notice there's a certain kind of personality gets attracted towards it, and you know.
I want to give a shout out. So when I was in Portland, we did a little meetup, and originally I announced it on the Cord Killers podcast. But one of the folks that showed up, her name is Amber, and she described running across the Weird Things podcast a few years ago. And because this is the way Amber rolls, she went back and listened to all 990 plus episodes of Weird Things from the beginning. Now, she didn't do it in a row. She's got this amazing system where what she does is when a podcast is interesting, she adds it to the mix, and she listens to podcasts all day, every day. But like once per day, there would be a Weird Things episode that she would listen to all the way back from episode 1 up to, we're at 996 is our official count right now. How amazing is that? And it's like to be there for all of it. I mean, I guess we were there for all of it. And you know what? You too, dear listener, you should be there for all of it, all the way back to the beginning.
Fun fact, not all three of us have been on all episodes.
So
she
Amber
has
is the goat.
Participated in more Weird Things episodes than any
we
one of
have.
us.
Congratulations, Amber. You may be the only person on the planet who has completed the Weird Things challenge. How amazing is that?
Yeah, like if Brian's not on an episode and Jess and I record it, Brian's not going to go back. Brian's got other
in the early days I did, but then around year 4 or 5, it's like we all got stuff to do.
Then there were other podcasts in the olden times.
Yes.
So we got NSW show and Weird Things. All right.
It's like, well, what am I going to do on this run? Might as well listen to the one so I can talk about it on the other.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. Nowadays, she mentioned a specific podcast app. In fact, write us, brian@schwood.com, Amber, if you remember what it was. But it's like a 10-year-old app that setting of just sort of add it to my favorites, and then it just kind of like a radio station, put it in the queue. And that makes sense. Like there would be talk radio shows that I'd listen to every single day when I had a day job. That makes sense.
Yeah. Want to do picks?
Yeah, dude. You know what? I got a couple of picks. I've been reading really good stuff.
Do it. Multiple. No rules, man. I mean, if Amber allows it.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you, I'll go in reverse order. The one I'm listening to today is Pitch Anything by Oren. Let me see. Oren Klaff, Klaff. An innovative method for presenting, persuading, and winning the deal. And this is ostensibly about like you're trying to pitch for venture capital or any of that stuff. But truthfully, it's just a different type of selling. And it's one of those, I can already tell, it's only 4.5 hours long. I'm going to go back and reread it again. I'm only an hour and a half into it. But it's one of those core ways of seeing things that's so dead simple, I can't unsee it. And he says, here's the mismatch. we're gonna be overly simplistic here. You've got 3 brains. You got the first one to evolve was your crocodile brain, the lizard brain, your autonomic system. What does it know? It knows I'm under threat. That's the amygdala is in charge. You got the your middle brain. That's the one that plugs in.
That amygdala's got a problem.
What's that?
Sorry.
This is metaphor, right? You got your middle brain. That's the one that, cities evolve and you know your status. So the middle brain is all in on what is my hierarchy. Think chimps, primates, right? What's my status? How do I plug in here? Am I under threat from within the tribe? And then you've got your prefrontal cortex, your neocortex. And that's where your high-minded ideas is. Here's the mismatch. When you have a pitch, whether it's for a Halloween party, whether it's for the prom, whether it's for a local ordinance, whatever, there's some point you meet other people. You are pitching from your neocortex, and you forget that they are only listening from their crocodile brain. They're thinking about, does this threaten me? Do I want to fight it or mate with it? Like, is it dead simple? And when you, yes, use your neocortex for whatever your great idea is, but pitching is its own dance. And you have to remember that you need them to feel safe and instantly able to get the little bits and make it so that each piece of what you're saying, they will want to say yes to and participate in. Of course, if you've ever pitched anything, whether it's a TV show or a book or what have you, you know that a lot of times people will use power to set the frame, or like, I only have 5 minutes. Give me the whatever. And if you take that at face value, then your pitch is going to fall flat. And instead, what he suggests is what they're doing is they're proposing a frame. Tell me everything in 5 minutes. If you say yes, you are accepting the frame, and that's one where it's going to be too easy to deflect. And instead, what you could do is take that opportunity to propose a counter frame. How do you do that? For example, you get pulled over by a cop, and you decide, oh, I'm going to say I didn't know I was speeding. And then that's the frame you've picked. And then he's like, well, here's radar. It says you're speeding, the end. And you lost. Whereas meanwhile, that story that I tell in the social engineering talk about I'm told this will help, and pulling out a get out of jail free card, that is an adjacent story where I hold all the power. Or imagine if I get pulled over and the first words out are like, sorry, I just finished a grad night party. I'm a magician. You want to see a trick? Ha ha. Now at this point, if he says, yeah, I do want to see the trick, then already it's over with. I'm not gonna pay for this ticket.
I'm gonna. Well, the state trooper you always do, but I'm gonna make you do a breathalyzer test if you just say I just finished a grad night party.
Yeah. Fair enough. But that's the other thing is most of us don't think about what frame we're opening and what dance and negotiation we're doing. And so it's one of those, like, for the moment, the moment he said that, I went back and I thought about a bunch of times that I had successful talks, pitches, good showcases in the college market, even the talk I did at DEF CON. I was like, oh, it checks all of those boxes. And then I thought about all the times that stuff didn't work out. And it was very clear. Yeah, they set the frame and I didn't, and I engaged when the deck was stacked against me. It was great. I
think about, like, I remember once I got pulled over heading into Las Vegas for work. And working on a TV show, and it was a BS thing. He had a radar thing that said you were going this fast. I'm like, I'm on a rental car. I couldn't go that fast, but I didn't argue. He's just like, he asked me, he goes like, you headed here for fun or for work or whatever, and I just got to see some friends, and I was actually going to go work, and I realized if I'd said work, I'm no longer an idiot tourist speeding. I'm a person just trying to get to a job.
Yeah.
And it was like that, because I'm usually like, I've had coming to Florida, I'd get pulled over. State troopers there will always they'll give other cops tickets, but I've been pulled over by the police. So where you coming from my parents' house? Where do your parents live? Here, let her, don't get a ticket. If I'm like, oh, I'm out with friends, get a ticket.
Well, there was a time that a friend of mine was raising hell as a college student, but regardless of what condition he was actually in at the time when he got pulled over, he said the words, "Sorry about these guys. I'm the designated driver." And that was enough of a frame for the cop to say, well, somebody is being responsible, and let him go.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a pick, little personal. Several years ago, I was going through YouTube and I found some very funny videos by a creator who didn't have like a ton of follows or views, but like just one of them just caught my eye. It was so very, very funny. And I reached out to him. His name was Alex Olam. I said, Alex, this is great stuff. Told him about myself, worked in TV and stuff, whatever. If I could ever be helpful, let me know. Kid followed me up. Like, yeah, any advice? And so started talking to him. He was still in college at that point, and said, I can introduce you some people in LA, help you however I can. I don't think any of that was like super helpful for him. He was already pretty driven. Told him, if you ever plan on making a feature film, let me know. And he says, I have an idea after I graduate, want to work with my friends, want to make a film. A year later, gets hold of me and says, hey, I have my budget. I know what I want to do. He was super respectful, very, very thoughtful, had laid out everything. I want to pay the actors, they get paid, but my friends will work as crew. They'll work for participation. I can use this. They have a video projection stage. He is going to FSU that I can use there. Laid out his budget, laid out his plan. And I said, okay, well, I'll do this. So I, gave him some money to go start the film, gets into the film, gets midway through production, or gets like finishes up, but they need to shoot some more stuff. Says, I need to raise some more money. He raised it for me and a couple other people. And he drove all the way up from, this point from LA up to my house up in, the Bay Area, showed my wife and I the work in progress. I asked Roshni, I said, what do you think? She says, yeah, I think he's really got something here. So we said, Alex, we'll help you out. We'll continue this on. Not thinking we're ever going to see the money back. Just the idea that he's a young creator, extremely respectful. I worked with other people that I've given money to make stuff, and then it become almost resentful. Like they come back for more and the production's a disaster. And then it's like, Alex was always respectful about this, whatever. And the movie's called It Ends. You might have seen some of the promo. It's been after we backed him, the producers of Backrooms came on to the film. It's getting a theatrical release next week from Neon. They're doing promos around the country. They're doing a thing in New York City where they're going to do a 36-hour marathon where you can try to sit through all the way. We're going to the premiere in LA next week. Alex is an extremely thoughtful filmmaker, very, very bright, very considerate. He's like, I made this movie like 4 years ago. I feel like I've moved on as a filmmaker. He's on set with his next feature, which is a multi-million-dollar feature film. And he kind of just did everything really right.
That's amazing.
I'm proud of this. Yeah, because he was a brilliant director. The producer of Backrooms came on board. He's in the same group as Corey Barker, who did Obsession, and Kane Parsons, who did Backrooms. And so Alex is another one of these sort of great new directors. It's a very cool existential sort of thing. It's very much, he wanted to do a Gen Z kind of like metaphysical sort of thing. The trailer, you may have seen on Instagram some other stuff for it, but when they come to the card with the credits card for this, and my wife and I, our names are right on the poster. We're right on in the trailer. And I've had other people I've helped out that are then like, I don't know, really. And it's like, this kid, a really, really high integrity, really, really high integrity.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, I could not be more proud. It's just, you back a bunch of different people, and, I don't regret anything. And some people just keep going and going and going and do really well by it. And, just really proud of the kid. He's been very thoughtful, very, very much, really, in his moment right now. Pause it.
Oh, wait. Oh, wait. Here, let me go back. I almost paused it, but then I didn't. Oh, wait, no, go back.
Brian, you're very bad at this.
Hey, Andrew Mayne.
No.
Rush Matcha, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is
I have another friend who
amazing.
I gave about as much money to start his project. And then he came up to and it was a disaster. We told him to be a disaster, but I liked him when it helped him out. And then he when it came time, credits, you didn't, he had to go raise a lot. Alex, they all ended up raising a ton more money.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but because we were the first money in, that's Mayne, the first money people in. This other guy's like, well, you guys didn't contribute as much. It's like, dude, we were your first money.
Yeah.
We were your first check outside of your family. Some people get it, some people don't. I don't care. I don't need to have my name on a movie. Well, I'm proud to have it here because Alex is a great kid. But is sometimes, people get into that like, well, did you really do that much for me? Did you really do that? And it's like,
That's so wild because, well, I don't know. I don't want to get in the whole game of like credits was one of those things where when Hollywood happened that I was really confused. Now I understand a little bit better. It's like, well, if you're in a zero sum ladder based, organism in Hollywood, then, you fight like the devil.
Oh no, but their standards, their rules, their practices. I had another person I helped out who then like, well, I had other people coming to bring more money. I'm like, right, because I financed you to get to the point that you got there.
Right.
Like that's you don't say.
Well, but I guess that's the part that blows my mind. It's like, why would you say no if somebody cares about that? I don't know.
Oh no, I don't. It was a very. I think that other person was upset that I didn't put more money into it. But I was also like, he was not. Alex was extremely respectful with everybody's time and what went into it. We understood where it was spent, what was doing. We knew he cared about it. When he raised money to do more, it was literally because the movie had momentum. It's like he needed to do professional things, and he brought in Hollywood money. Like we helped him a bit, but then the vast majority was paid for by like the producers of back rooms and everything else like that.
Yeah.
Like what we contributed was super tiny in comparison to that. Let me make that very clear.
Well, that's great. When does this come out?
Next week.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
But, and I tell you, sometimes, as a creative, the best thing you can do as a creative is to find another creative and just say, how can I be helpful?
Yeah, dude, that is one of the cheat codes. I think a lot about, oh, you know what? I do have the other pick that I was waiting to discover. Two voices that I hear in my head a whole bunch are Stephen Pressfield's and Rick Rubin. Well, guess what? Stephen Pressfield was on Rick Rubin's podcast, and the two of them go as wild-eyed hippie as you could possibly imagine. They both believe in magical things. Stephen Pressfield, in his book, The Art of War, talks about resistance with a capital R, a malevolent force that keeps you from achieving your artistic purpose by throwing BS in front of you at all times. And meanwhile, Rick Rubin talks about getting in touch with what he calls capital S source, this hippie attunement for the essence of what's good art. Anyway, if you just, you've heard us talk about Stephen Pressfield stuff before. Rick Rubin, epic producer, music producer. Listen to the two of them talking on YouTube. Just search Stephen Pressfield and Rick Rubin.
Amazing. Other pick. Oh, other thing too, like my dad. I helped my dad. My dad wrote his biography.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's his law enforcement biography. It's available now on Amazon, called The Long Beat by Jim Harder. I'm like, hey, you have different names. Like, yeah, I'm in witness protection. Yeah. James Harder. Look up James Harder, The Long Beat. Great stories. My dad had an incredible law enforcement journey from working as a James Harder, sorry. Working as he worked at Atlanta Police Department, going after it's great. One review, somebody's not happy.
I'll fix that review.
Going after moonshiners. You're gonna get the I hate cops in there. Going after moonshiners, all sorts of stuff. Just incredible sort of journey through law enforcement. So was very, very happy to help him put this together.
That's great. A law enforcement's journey from moonshine backroads to cocaine wars.
Yeah, my dad started off, Atlanta Police Department, and then basically, arrested the guy that narked on Manuel Noriega.
Whoa.
Just literally. Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, literally quite the career.
That's amazing. That's
I paused on my delivery on that, literally. And I did a pause because I pulled up the page. I got distracted. By the way, too, Spider-Man.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. It's like my fourth favorite Spider-Man movie, but the number one biggest box office winner of all time Yeah.
Maybe it's my second probably favorite.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh
pretty
yeah.
good. You can tell they're doing some setups on everything. Oh, by the way, shouts out to Creator Ant, who's in the chat right now. I've seen some of Creator Ant stuff on my feed.
Cool.
But yeah, the Spider-Man, look, it was doing a lot of jobs, and when it was doing the job of telling a good Spider-Man story, I liked it a lot.
I loved it. Don't care. Don't listen to Brian. Everybody,
Ha!
it's amazing. It's amazing. It's awesome. I enjoyed it. I don't like. There's like. I remember when I saw Dark Knight. I'm like, it's long, but I'm like, what would I take out? I'm like, nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, I'd like. Look, what's your Spider-Man ranking? Your favorite ones?
Oh goodness. What I forget the names. First of all, the one with the 3 Spider-Man was amazing. And keep in mind, if we're gonna call it the second place, then that means we have to put all the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man behind it. And I had a lot of fun on the first couple of Spider-Man movies. I don't know that this one. Like there are iconic moments in those first 2 Sam Raimi ones that I would have to put at the very top.
Yeah, it's weird because like I'm a fan of Raimi and I enjoyed the first one. I've maybe seen it twice.
Yeah,
I've maybe seen it that. I've never gone back. Of all of them, I liked the first Andrew Garfield. I liked that. I watched that probably more than the first Sam Raimi. Spider-Man Homecoming, I loved. I've watched that multiple times.
Yeah, that was great.
I think it's phenomenal. Far From Home, I thought was super, super fun. No Way Home, my least favorite. It's the clunkiest of them for me.
No Way Home, is that the Mysterio one?
No, that's Far From Home. No WayOme is the other Spider-Man.
Really?
Spoiler
How
alert.
about that?
Yeah, it's such a clunky movie to me. It's such a clunky movie to me.
Yeah, I don't know. It delivered some delightful surprises that I just was amazed that it was
huge. It's like this. I think I would say that I think that the two of these are kind of similar in the sense that like if you're in for it and like the story's going to sprawl and go this way, it's great. If you're like, all right, I want to get back to this, then it's like you're like, and like I don't begrudge anybody who loves that one.
Yeah.
You know, I will go like, it's so clunky, it's so clunky. This one, I just, Punisher and Spider-Man, all that. I was like,
I mean, yeah. When it was Punisher and Spider-Man, 10 out of 10. Great. A little bit of friendly neighborhood Spider-Man riff, but great. Look, I don't want to cite all the things that I didn't love, but there's enough there that I did love.
Both those movies are going to do fine without our endorsement.
I know.
Somewhere Kevin Feige's like, God, Brian, Andrew, like, Jesus,
what a block.
One of your friends write a movie that I should have let him write.
Yeah. It's like, congrats. Here's some action figures. Write your own version. Okay.
They call it
that's right. Sign brings up whether or not do we count the Spider-Verse? Because I'll put the Across the Spider-Verse maybe at the very tippy top. Boy, did I love the first one, Into the Spider-Verse.
I loved it the first time. Not an easy watch for me the second time. Sometimes it's like a JJ, not to say like sometimes a JJ Abrams film is like fun 70 or 80% through the watch. And then you get to the end, you're like, that's cool. And then you kind of think of the parking lot and then you kind of go home. I think Spider-Verse is way better.
Yeah.
But once the novelty, that's the thing that's same with the Sam Raimi stuff. Once the novelty of Peter Parker discovering the thing is even watching that movie again is much fun for me.
Yeah.
Far From Home was fun for me because there's a lot of really clever stuff there. Or excuse me, No Way, Homecoming rather. But they're great though. But again, Sony's problem, their production pipeline is terrible. So we're finally getting the sequel to Across the Spider-Verse. Like they did not green light those at the same time. And then, the K-pop Demon Hunters, same thing. Like they just literally did not want to pay for that.
Yeah, this just in. Spider-Man Brand New Day tanks in box office after live stream discussion. I'm sorry. What hell hath we wrought?
Somebody needs to do a postmortem on Ain't It Cool News in the early 90s and early aughts, because we have an entire generation that never got to experience what it was like to literally watch the entire film industry be manipulated by some pasty Austin geeks.
Yeah. That would be a good doc. Well, actually, I don't know if it'd be a good doc. It would be a doc I would want to watch, though.
Oh, I think it'd be a great. I think that's the right way to do it. Like I said, I think a documentary would be a great way to do it. Because I think that. So, if those of you don't know, there was a site called Ain't It Cool News, and Ain't It Cool, as you all know, was a great catchphrase from what movie?
Oh shoot! I which one?
Broken Arrow.
Oh my God! No, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, Ain't It Cool? So Ain't It Cool News, and basically it was a site for like all sorts of news. It's still around, but I don't know if anybody goes there. Site for all kinds of movie gossip and stuff. And what they did was they would read things on other websites and then submit it like, oh, my trip, it was classic how you do this. They like launder like, oh, so-and-so saw this, so-and-so saw this. You know, Moriarty, these characters that would start talking about like seeing, you know, the gossip and stuff, and they just make stuff up flat up. But so many people went to it that then studios would go try to do it, and it launched Blair Witch Project. Like Blair Witch Project was
it was like whether or not it was a fantasy or an overstatement to begin with, they did start getting stolen scripts and all of that stuff. The fantasy became real.
Well, what they got was sometimes either screenwriters who wanted their pitch to get attention, or people who hated a pitch and wanted to see it killed would leak to it. And then they would talk about like the way you built buzz for movies would be like, oh, I just saw I live in a college town. I just saw this screening for this movie. It was amazing. You know, secret screening. And it was just filmmakers making up screenings that never took place.
Oh, that's great.
How they built up Blair Witch Project. The Blair Witch Project, like nobody had seen it, but they created this fake buzz of just like saying like, oh yeah, I saw it. It's great. And some other people picked up the game like, oh, we don't actually have to do a screening. We just have a credible person feed enough stories in there, then go in and say, I saw it, and have other people go in and do it. And that became.
It's like, if what you want is buzz, why bother to have an event and hope that it catches buzz? Why not just go straight to make buzz go?
Yep.
That's so bonkers. All right.
Go see a movie.
Yeah. How's it been?
Brian? It ends.
Yeah. Bye. Got it. Excellent. All right, here. You want to do a bathroom break, and then we'll do after things?
Yep.
Hold on here. I'm gonna play this drone show. I wonder if there we go. Does Content ID notice video only, or is it mainly audio driven? We'll find out. Oh. Yeah. Perfect timing. We did it. Man. Them drones. All right, boss. Oh.
All righty.
All right, here we go. And make it just the two of us. Pew. All right, ready? And 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to the After Things podcast. I'm Andrew Mayne, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Hey, man. After Things. If you're unfamiliar, I don't know if you noticed this, we're rather fond of independent creators. We think that they should create independently.
Yeah, I think we are at a very, very awesome time for independent creators. And a thing that we've talked about before, AI is very contentious in a lot of creative spaces because I think that for many people, it feels like it comes at the, we'll talk about like, it was copying from this and that as somebody sits on top of a hard drive filled with anime and manga that they cheerfully downloaded without paying anybody for, which is why those arguments sometimes sort of feel a little bit hollow, like the amount of piracy that goes on and all the things that people really love. But now I care because this thing, and it's fine to say, I don't like it. I want human made stuff. And I think the arguments are better when people are like, I want to know a human wrote the book. I prefer artwork by humans because if I flip through a comic page, I want to know that the human wrote it, whatever. I think those are very valid points. And I tell people like, you just make that argument. Just say that I like that, But also though, I got to say, like as a writer, I get to ask sometimes, I just talk to some publishers, they're like, did you ever use AI to write? I'm like, no, I like to write. Like I write fast and I love to write. But man, I'll use it for everything else I can. I will, if I need to update or do stuff, I have like to maintain and update my books is a pain. And I'll use it for grammar checking. I'll make my choices, but I'll do that. And that's been my new thing is like, I've gone through and I've actually done AI covers on my self-distributed books. Because it's just from an expedient point of view, there's not, it's not a big market to go do that. And so I did AI covers for those, spent a lot of time working on them. And then to go update all the covers, I had Codex go through and open up my Kindle, go through KDP and go through and do all of that.
Yeah, any of that tedious scripting stuff. So I'm in the middle of trying to, over the last, I don't know, 14 years, I think that the total email list is just shy of 200,000 people. Now, when I send out an email, right now, there's so many things that have been so misconfigured after so many years. So many of them are going into, there's automatic bouncing and engagement issues or whatever. But realistically, it's close to like 10,000 people who will actually open an email when it goes out. But over the years with MailChimp, I haven't known which of the emails are safe to put into cold storage. And of course, MailChimp, they're like, well, I don't know, seems like it'd be bad if you weren't reaching all of your customers. So as a result, it's like a ridiculous $1,200 a month I've been paying forever and ever and ever. So I started the conversation today. It's like, look, what can we refine? Can I get a picture of like if it's an organism, what shape is it, of level of depth of engagement? How many of them, like where are we cutting the line off? And what better service besides MailChimp might there be? And it sounds like MailChimp is pretty aged out, and what I should be looking at is Beehive or something else. But on top of that, that's my next project is building a map of everybody I've ever connected with. And let me flatly tell you, none of this could have happened in any world where a robot wasn't going to do the large data set sifting. But the idea that I could take, look at my Gmail. How many people in all of my email list did I personally swap pleasantries with? Great, that's a vector. Look at Shopify. Did they ever buy anything? Do they have a phone number? Now look at my contacts. Have I contacted them via phone? Have we exchanged pleasantries via text or whatever? And it's like, if I can make I guess what I'm describing is what all the big companies started doing 20, 30 years ago with detailed data graphics. But man, I really look forward to being able to reach out to folks who have drifted off because life happens 4 or 5 years ago, post-pandemic or whatever. And and figuring out what they're up to, what they're interested in, and to figure out what kind of stories would reactivate them.
Yeah, there's so many little things that it can be really hard to bring somebody on board or get somebody up to speed and say, hey, I need you to do this. And often it's just not worth the time that you spent trying to find somebody or what you're trying to do just isn't there. And so like I am like, I look at like the book stuff and it's like, I'm like, great. If there was like humans that were ready to go do this, that was easy to find, and I knew that they would be able to do a good job of it, I'd be happy to. But I have to give account access and all these other sorts of things. And I do think there's a world where we make that easier. And I would love to bring more people into my workflow to handle things for me. But just working in California, like just hard alone to like give anybody money, let alone work out some sort of agreement. Like we've made it so difficult to hire people. Like the gig economy was, I think, a phenomenal opportunity that we have done everything we can to make it difficult and really squashed what was possible of that.
Yeah,
and people kind of don't understand.
One of the canonical examples that I always think of is a friend of ours had a really good gig blogging for a number of different companies, including Forbes. And he just, the Uber law came out in California saying, if you look too much like an employee, you have to be an employee. And then what happened? The unintended consequence of all of the freelance writers couldn't freelance write anymore. And that was a real bummer.
Yeah, it's hard because it's one of these things where you get the emotional arguments of, how am I supposed to do this if I'm, living off of this? And it's like, and we kind of like some of these jobs weren't, meant for that. Like, working at McDonald's, like McDonald's was a great part-time job as a teenager. Maybe you have a full-time person who's a manager, and then people complain about how can you support a family on a McDonald's job? Not the goal.
Yeah.
And how can I support a full-time job, babysitting kids for 2 hours a night once a week? Like you can't. And then it's like, and we thought that we were in every situation you have this where we said, no, we'll put in these protections, things like this. Overall wages don't go up. Opportunities go down. It's like minimum wage. It sounds great to say, let's raise minimum wage. It really, really sounds great until you talk to somebody who owns a restaurant, or you raise minimum wage and you're in the restaurant like, this sucks. There's nobody here that can't come to my table. It's like, yeah, they had to. And people just, again, you kind of know that just means people who ran businesses haven't a lot of times when you have these discussions, because they just imagine that businesses have infinite cash flow or things like this. And literally businesses are like, how do I keep my employees paid? How do I keep them paid? And like, so long story short, it's frustrating because there was a world where TaskRabbit, these things, and Fiverr could have been way, way more. And a lot of people, like you mentioned, your friends, like, yeah, I'll work for 15 different people and do a lot of pickup work and do it, would have done that, but it didn't. So anyhow, we still have opportunities, but right now, like you said, using these tools. What else? Some other things you've done with them?
Oh, sorry. We lost you for just a second, right before. What are some things you've done with them?
Yeah, I said for me, productivity wise, I go in and I use it for grammar checking for like my books. If I write a book, I say, go check my grammar, make sure that I close my quotation marks. Like I said, I don't want it to write something for me. I would feel I don't like it when I have a wonderful editor who gets me better than any other editor ever has. But if my editor went in and put a sentence for me, whatever, one, it won't read right. It would feel
right. They could maybe point to an area and ask a question. We had a little drop off there again. But so the what's the latest thing that you find? Even people who consider themselves at the bleeding edge of using AI tools for productivity, what's a thing that you still have noticed people haven't picked up on yet?
I would say that like one of the easiest things you can do right now is connect your ChatGPT to Gmail. I mean, one is buy a subscription.
Yeah.
Like literally once you get it, once you really start to understand this productivity tool, the idea that you would hesitate to spend $20 a month will seem silly. And once you really get into it, the $100 and the $200 plans start to look really, once you understand, I'm like, you're just sitting there going, I just want to get a job as a welder. I'm like, not pushing that on you. But if you're a creative that says every day, man, I wish there was somebody to handle this for me, I would just say, first step is pay for a subscription. ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, do ChatGPT. But if you got to do Claude, fine. But you're just going to get way more compute out of ChatGPT, and it's going places you won't believe. But anyhow, you can connect both of them to your Gmail. You can connect it to your email. You can say, go check my email, check my calendar. I literally now, what's in my email? Oh, you got this response. So I just tell it what to do. Oh, add this to my calendar. Go do this to it. That alone, $20 a month. Insane.
Yeah.
That I can just tell it what to do.
On top of that, so does that would include codecs and everything running on your PC? The reason I ask is because like yesterday I did an episode of Office Hours, and I've been slowly kind of training the codecs on the massive list of things to do that up to and including, because there are things that Gemini can do that ChatGPT can't. So at one point, the current workflow on Office Hours involves getting the next episode of Scam School, getting the link for it, dropping it into Gemini to ask it to summarize and write and create a timeline based on the runtime of it, then taking the output from Gemini and then dropping it into a script that builds an on-screen overlay of the rundown. But at some point, I realized I was going home for the day, and I was like, oh, you know what? You're gonna take a look at the news stories. You've seen the show. You know the kind of news stories that I'm interested in. Just email me when you got 4 to look at, and I'll tell you which ones I like. And then by the time I got home, 45 minutes later, just bloop, I got an email from myself, and it says, hi, it's your robot. Here are the 4 stories. Which one do you like? I'm like, number 4 looks good. And then an hour later, I open up the remote desktop app to just see what it's doing. Happy as a duck in a puddle. It's pitching me 4 different thumbnails. It's got this stuff. And now we're at the part where, and look, we're still smoothing everything out. We're figuring it out. But it can now open up an instance of Restream. It can do the tedious thing where it knows that this YouTube channel you have to set to ultra low latency because the default does the wrong thing. Also, LinkedIn won't let you paste more than 50 characters. So you're going to have to rewrite the description as 50 characters and. But it's like anything you do more than once, any repetitive task, and I don't mean repetitive all day repetitive. I mean once a week repetitive. It just gets better and better. A thing that I hadn't seen before while I was out on the road, Justin and I, instead of using the studio setup, we had to use Riverside. And much like that dude who had an agent get him a booking at the gym and it hacked in and knocked other people off.
You got to tell them that story.
Oh, okay. All right. So somebody said to his agent, hey, give me on the list.
His software agent, everybody.
Yes. He said, give me a reservation, give me on the list at this gym. And couldn't figure out a way to do it. So it's like, well, I got an idea. Hacked into the gym, got access to the back end, knocked somebody off of the reservation list, put him on instead. But in a situation kind of like that, the problem I was solving for was I went to Riverside and I couldn't find the download button. And I sent a screen grab. And I'm like, hey, man, I can't find the download, and we got to post the bonus episode of Great Night. And it said, oh, hang on a second. And when I came back, it was like, yeah, I couldn't find the play button either or the download button either. But I did notice that I was able to figure out the source files. Now, yours is 48 kilohertz. Justin's is 44 kilohertz. And I noticed that your levels are a little bit different. So I'll tell you what, I put them together. Which is better A or better B? 2 different 1 minute long samples. And I was able to listen. And then I was like, yeah, this one's better. It's like, great, you got it. And then look, there's still stupid there. And there's going to be stupid for a long, long time. We're going to get farther and farther along the line. And then we'll encounter the stupid. But if your mental map hasn't been updated in the last year, take a moment and just see how much farther the Overton window of stupid is in AI use?
As an experiment, one of the things that's really frustrating is like trying to like update people about everything going on. And so while we were talking, I asked ChatGPT to do a thing for me. Let's see if it shares. Screen sharing. Oh,
Have you
screen
messed
sharing's
around
not
with
gonna work.
Hermes AI? Stories by Will was just asking if
Yeah, I
we.
know those guys. I know the guy at News Research. I know the guys that built it. You know, I think there's a flavor for everybody. They're very, very cracked on what they do. For me, ChatGPT is just it's stable and the costs are a lot easier. Like some of the stuff it's subsidized, whatever. But they're doing like people love. I know a lot of people love Hermes. But I went in and I asked it to go in. I opened up Codex and I said, oh, you know, Substack, writing Substack posts, things like that to like put up an update on a book. And I just said, you know what? I opened up Substack in a side browser. You can open a side browser and have ChatGPT. It's the app. It has a thing called Work, ChatGPT, and then Codex. It's very confusing why they did that, but
I agree.
there's reasons. But you go in and you say, I created a project in Codex, and then I called it Substack, and then I created a side window, and I said, in the side window, I opened up Substack, logged into Substack, and then I just typed into ChatGPT. I said, create a post with an image and link from my new book, The Session. All I asked for it. And I created an entirely has a whole new session, has everything for me, built the whole thing. Like I literally have to screenshot it because Chrome is so silly, but it's literally just show you what it made while we spoke.
Wow. Yeah, that's way better.
It found, all I did was tell it that. It found the cover for the book. It found the link to Amazon. I didn't give it that.
That's one of those things that historically, a year ago, my understanding of AI was like, oh yeah, it gets really excited, it spins around in circles, and then it sits down. But now it's able to carry the ball a lot farther, and it doesn't give up. And you can say things like, "Do not stop until this is complete," and then 45 minutes later, it's like, "Gotcha."
Yeah. I've been delighted. Like I had it do if you go to my x.com, you go to my profile. All I did was I logged into X and I said, hey, I need you to do a profile pic for me for this, I have a book, The Session, use the style of that, go do that. And it came back with one, which was just like the text. And I said, no, it needs to fit this.
Oh, sorry. It looks like
and it just went to black.
Yeah, there we go.
Brian, there you go.
It was too mysterious. Yeah, that's great.
It did that. I mean, literally, it was just, I didn't direct it. It just followed, it looked at the book, figured out the style of the book and how to do it, used the GPT image and created it. Like amazing.
That's awesome.
A book designed by a real human, by the way. Real designer, by the way.
Well, and there is interesting things like I'm looking forward to bespoke AIs that have a reliable style. Like here's the thing. ChatGPT is very good at a lot of its image creation, but it has an unmistakable style. And the problem is everybody wrinkles their nose because it can't be the same source that your grade school gym teacher uses. You want to pay for somebody else's taste to be in a different direction. And I look forward to the point where for now, it'll be a human with their own home-baked LLM style. But eventually, I'd like to just be able to go to a vending machine and just, like the way we shop for fonts, look for a thumbnail creation bot that has a style that will never get mistaken for ChatGPT. Not because there's anything wrong with ChatGPT, but just because I want it to not look like ChatGPT.
Yeah, and that comes down to prompting too. Like I worked on a project with some friends and like I realized that like I took for granted. Like I'm like, oh no, go into the API, use this model, do this, give it this sort of input and what. And there is a lot of craft to it. I had a thing the other day too, where I was working on a video project and the editor sent me a thing and I needed entirely different images for it. And and I was in the middle of things. So I just grabbed a folder. I just went through Shutterstock and downloaded like 40 images. It just chose the images I needed, threw them in a folder, went to Codex, gave it the other video, said, I need you to replace all of these images. Brian, it was insane.
So,
I came back, went to Taco Bell, came back.
It edits videos now. How did I not know this?
It'll edit video.
That's so amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It will edit video. It will open up a video editor if you needed to use a video editor. You can get it to run CapCut if you need to, or it'll just do it natively with FFmpeg. Like it'll just go into FFmpeg and it'll just cut and do that for you because it can grab a transcript. I told it, looked at the transcript, said, no, I need on-screen captions, whatever. It did a great job. Wow. It did a great job. Like I was like, this is.
Well, and so there was a moment that I was talking to my daughter. She was trying to get a thing to do in this project. There's a lot of refining, and there was a mistake. And she said, "Oh, that's not right. Set a rule where it blanks." And then 3 hours later, just gibberish came out. And I pointed out, I was like, "Oh, sweetie, metaphor incoming. You should have proposed legislation, but instead you issued a constitutional amendment." She's like, "Oh," so we rolled it back. And I was like, if it makes you feel better, Penny, nobody in the history of all of humanity has had to deal with this. This is a brand new problem for humans writ large. And literally nobody knows what this stuff can and can't do. We're inventing it.
Was the one guy at a time who was the only person in the world who was tasked with trying to explain to people how to use it, because that role didn't exist. It was so new.
And by the way, if you're tempted to believe it's too late, it ain't.
Oh, no. It's like, no.
This is let me explain. Like there's all, if you draw a Venn diagram, start with 100% and then cut out the fact that 80% of all humans are like, I ain't engaged with it yet. Great. So now 20% are engaging. Then take 80% of those are probably wrong, outdated, doing it wrong. Great. Take 80% of those, cut them out. There's so much interesting space to be ahead. We've said this for years. Whatever your industry is, you are a week away from being the foremost authority of how to get robots to do part of it. That's it.
If you've been listening to the Weird Things podcast and learned our evolution as people involved with AI and using it for creative tools and whatnot, and Brian building robotic studios, and me, hey, cool AI story, to OpenAI science communicator. Like, these are not our first careers.
Yeah, no. Well, and that's the other thing is I will say there's going to be a generational divide. And I actually, I'm not, look, young people do whatever you want. But if a thing that a young person says is, I'm still trying to figure out the actual world before I start using robot crutches, yes, that's great. But for somebody who has hot takes, a perspective on the world, is established, and maybe over the age of 30, in which case everything is only on a track to decay more and more and more, start virtualizing, become productive again, go.
Yeah, I agree. I think everybody has to find their pace, and like I think that somebody's a coder says I've talked to kids who are like studying code and they just want to learn code without using the AI tools. I'm kind of like do both, like actually do both. Like spend time without as a writer. I'm like sit down with a notebook and a pen, and write. Just do that. Because my concern is it does become a cope to be able to say I don't have to. But my argument's kind of be like, you're going to find the world's going to move very fast because you're like musicians in the 90s that are like, I don't think I need the internet to move my music. It's like, no.
Do you know what? I had that thought just the other day, is that it was the first time there was a local band that I brought up MP3s, and just instantly they cut it off. They're like, garbage, hate it. They're ruining everything. And I remember thinking like, oh, but you just don't understand. Now, it turns out that depending on how you want to squint, they were right that obviously the revenue industry got turned upside down. But then, 10 years later, I'm certain that they were listening to stuff on Spotify.
Yeah, that's what the success of MySpace. It was just like that was And that was it. It was like, I think a lot of I mean, you can say I don't want to participate in it, but you can say I'm an artist, but okay, remember you're an artist. You said you're not a business person. And you can say, if you're an artist, in the moment you put a price tag on it, guess what? You're in business.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want your business to perform a certain way, you have to understand the reality of the world, but you can choose carefully how you do it. I don't know. Like, I went through this with publishing where I was very early to have done self-publishing, and I got people who turned their nose up and all that.
It didn't feel early at the time. Like, I remember it seemed like
No.
we thought we were late to Patreon. You thought you were late to Kindle publishing and everything. I thought I was late to YouTube.
I think, like, you know, I was looking for analogies. It's like, you know, we're living in Europe in 1592 and or 1492. Like, I want to explore, like, some guy, Columbus, just went out, found these islands, are kind of cool. Like, gosh darn it. And then, like, hey, a little later, like, hey, they're building a colony in that new world in Jamestown. You could go. And then I want to explore. They already got the colony there. What am I going to do? I'm like, hey, they're pushing west into like the Appalachian Mountains. You could go do it. No, that time just passed. Like, hey, they just found this Mississippi River. It's pretty cool. Like, I'm sorry, that time has passed. California, gold, and everything else is still out there. And that's the way so much of it is that we're so early. And I talked to a publisher yesterday, a really nice publisher doing children's books. They're in bookstores, they're in Dollar Tree, they're all over the place, and very much looking to adapt and evolve over times. And it's interesting because, like, that's an industry that I'm like, you don't need to have AI write the books or do the stuff, but the amount of stuff that AI can do to reduce the cost and do other stuff is
to empower you. Like imagine, you know, you're Stephen King's or whatever. He wakes up, there's so many things that cognitively he doesn't have to press pause on writing brain in order to engage with, because he has staff and people and all that stuff. Congrats. That's you now. You can now offload so much BS so that you spend more time doing the stuff that you're uniquely gifted at.
Yeah. Yeah. So productivity, and there's using it for productivity over creativity.
Also,
as a writer.
Sorry to interrupt. I didn't mean to. It occurs to me that it's like the vibe is a little bit different. And I wonder if it boils down to, quite simply, a year ago, if you wanted to use AI for productivity, there wasn't as much that you could trust it to do. And now it's a lot more. I remember for me, it was March of this year that I was like, oh, this is really useful at this thing. I would be really sad if this went away. And it was no longer a novelty. It was just a productivity force multiplier.
Yeah. I look at it right now. Like, I can get it to go load stuff up, get the screens open, and then let me write. Like, a lot of what I do is for, like, writing, I'll say, oh, I did this. So I'm working on a new book project. I sat down. I have a table downstairs in my living room. I wrote down on legal paper and note cards all of the chapter things I wanted to do. And then I took photos. And then I sent them to Codex and I said, hey, can you prepare a Scrivener project for me using these chapter titles? And then put my notes in there. Don't write anything for me. Don't write anything for me, but literally turn these notes into that. And so Scrivener is a tool for writing books. It's a really wonderful thing. It has a sidebar with all your chapters. You put all your notes into it. I open up all my chapter notes. Everything's there. And the best part, then there's my blank canvas, and I could sit down and create. It's just amazing. You know, I've got a new tool that I use for writing, for doing dictation, which is great. Just so cool.
If nothing else, how great is it that we finally have solved the whiteboard problem? We can finally just take a picture of a whiteboard after a crazy brainstorming session and get something sensible out of it.
Oh man, it's super helpful. You know, it's one of these things where we spend so much time, you know, wanting to be creative, and then, you know, we finally get this chance to do it. And I think that you just realize that the biggest problem here is trying to tell myself to limit myself on projects. By the way, I just sent my Substack post out right now. And to be able to walk through and figure out a workflow. And now it's cool because ChatGPT Agent, I can say, hey, once a week, prompt me, send me a text, tell me to write something. I'll write something clever, and then I can send it out. Literally be the helper, be the assistant that's telling me, hey, Andrew, you should go do this.
Yeah.
Now we all have it.
That's going to be once I do the MailChimp, I don't know, tracking down, I forget the words that I was using, but basically all of the contact big data set. And once I do that, then productivity will be next.
Yeah, I think you could reduce your cost, by the way, what you're spending on that a lot.
Yeah. Well, and also because I have magician brain, I'm also thinking, is there a more novel way to reach people? For example, like one of the things in business is you should ask, what is my unfair advantage? And to be honest, as crazy as it sounds, I think I'm going to do literal, physical, direct mail. Like, I think that is so novel. Postcards from like, imagine, my face looking like a thumbnail. Like, imagine this. Instead of relying on YouTube to algorithmically get my stuff in front of someone else, a postcard with that same thumbnail, and on the back, it's just like, here's an update of the most important things. Just, go find it. It's like that. I don't know what that would be worth or what the expense would be, but for a video that was important enough, I can imagine that being a worthy way to signal that, hey man, I would really appreciate it if you would watch this one.
That'd be cool. Yeah, just put a QR code right there. They can scan it right on their phone.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Although
Wow,
nowadays, cool. Even the just the you could just take a picture of the thing and like, what is this? And then it'll take you straight to the video.
Put a QR code.
Yeah.
You're right, but a lot of because like to your point, last night I was working on a project. I'm like, oh, it's just an easy thing to tell ChatGPT to use, and I'm like, oh, only 2.2% of the population has a ChatGPT subscription. They literally,
yeah.
That's the thing. It's like we're very much. You're right, but you and I are very much in the brain of, Brian. Like you mentioned a thing on X, like, how do I find out more about this? And you're like,
you already know. Like, you have everything you need. Knowing things is the new hyperlink. Like,
the thing that caught us off guard at OpenAI when we launched ChatGPT was all of the pieces were there. I had demoed 2 years before an app that did functionally everything ChatGPT had. It just slow, use GPT-3. You could go in, you could get a subscription to OpenAI, use the API, use the playground, and play around with it. It was all there and there. But what it took was the chat interface, which answered the blank question problem. Like, it didn't do anything you couldn't do already. That model had been out for 6 months. But the chat interface, oh, I ask a question here and it does a thing there. And it's like, well, yeah, but you could have just write the question at the top of the blank page in the playground, it would do it. Nope. Too much friction. Ask a question here. Also, let's get rid of the Google sign-in. Just let people use it. Like, getting rid of those 2 pieces of friction. And you'll hear a story from somebody at Google and Anthropic, like, oh yeah, we had it too, but OpenAI was the first one to go relaunch it. Like, okay, that's a cool story, but how come when 6 months later, when you released yours, they all sucked? If you were sitting on it before, and also with the friction, you weren't going to get rid of that, and that was accidental. And that's just so much. We ignore how much friction there is when we ask people for stuff, and it matters all the more. I get in this all the time with people, like, I'm going to do this, and it's like, okay, I have to click these 2 steps. Yeah, I just want people really want it. I'm like, you're assuming they're on an island with nothing else to do but to look at your stupid thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's make it easy. Make it easy. That's the biggest thing that that I think a lot of creators, because in the middle of, like, for example, here in the middle of this Weird Things podcast, it's very a lot of friction. Anybody who's here watching has made a lot of time, given a lot of runway, let us kind of spin up with a bunch of false starts, explore threads that didn't pay off or whatever. But there are a few really great moments. Like, for example, when we talked about, like, here's the highest res photo of the sun ever. It's like, well, then what does making it easy look like? It would be edited down to a fine 45-second short with the image, whatever. You can make it easy, and then all of a sudden that can reach tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah. I think that the more you play in the sandbox and see what's possible, the more you just realize what you can do.
Yeah. All right. How's it been?
It's been after.
Nailed it. Boom. Oh, wait. I got 2 songs playing at once. I was going to do this one. There we go. There we go. All right. Thank you so much, beautiful people. We will see you guys maybe tomorrow for office hours. We might have a shoot.
Oh, good. Yeah. Chance to pick Brian's brain, guys.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'm shutting down the stream. Bye.